Today's episode is very important for everyone who is trying to crack in incident response, DFIR, not even that, for facing your interviews as well. To answer this particular query, how can you remove malwares from your website? Yes guys, so in today's episode we are going to explain from every detailed step how this is possible, because trust me, every time rebuild is not an easy solution, especially if you are working on a server system and that got compromised, right? So there has to be some steps, like before even going to remove your network cable, remove the machine from your network. So all those steps are fine for containment. Right now, how can you clean up your server and make it online and make your business up and running again, right? And if you can stick around, not only about the theory, so finally I am going to release the Power Forensics. That is an awesome tool which can help you to categorize and capture your Linux forensic data. Not only that, you can use that particular script to capture your volatile data and analyze the volatile data in an automated fashion, right? So don't wait, and whatever you want to grab, like coffee, beer, mug, whatever you want, so grab that quickly and let's dig in. Okay, so the first let us see how practically a website can get infected, or even we can say like can get hacked, right? Okay, so the first thing is that phishing email. So through phishing email, a website can get infected. Now how it can happen? Let's assume that you are an administrator of that particular website and you have got an phishing email, and you have got phished by that email. Now you are having some kind of credentials to access your website, and through that website attackers can come to first to explore you and then explore your website, right? So that's the first way how it can happen. So the second thing is that fraudulent website. Okay, so just remember, like in most of the cases, we the humans are the biggest weaklings, right, for like any kind of incidents or any kind of security breach. Now fraudulent website is what exactly? So let's assume that again, so you are an administrator or you have some kind of access to your website. One day you clicked on your website and you got redirected to looking similar kind of website what exactly mimics to your site, right? So now you got trapped into that phase by just providing the credentials to that particular page. So what we can call it as like credential harvesting kind of stuff. So it can, by the way, come from a phishing email as well, right? So once you have got an email and got a link, it got redirected to the lookalike page from your website, and you have given your admin credential maybe on that particular page, and you got scammed, right? Okay, so the next thing is that backdoor. So it is very much important. So how it can basically happen? Now let's assume that you are running your website on particular application, particular software, and that particular application has a vulnerability and you don't know about it, right? So it could be a 0-day, it could be something else also, but you don't know about it. So that basically works as backdoor for your website, so that whenever you are not patching that particular website and particular vulnerability, if someone tries to exploit that remains a backdoor to get entry to your website, and thus you can get compromised, right? So that's a critical thing. So always remember to patch your website. You are an administrator and there has to be a patch cycle and process to remove those backdoors from your website. So the next thing is that source code alteration. So the image is quite interesting, guys, right? So it's kind of a QR code kind of a stuff, and it's a rabbit hole, right? So now you can see and you can probably understand, right? Now you might have, or your developer might have created the source code in some pattern. Now through some supply chain attack or some modification on GitHub libraries and GitHub repositories which might have got compromised, someone just altered the code in such a manner that, okay, so they just put their gibberish code into that. They just given their malicious code into that and you don't have any idea. So in that kind of fashion your website can get infected, and by doing that, when your source code gets basically altered, you are nowhere, right? So it's a similar example, like if you are interested, so I have a similar very detailed website hack investigation. I'll leave the link in the description and it is coming in the I button here as well. You can see that how index.php or index.html code got altered and by which the page was defaced. Okay, so that's a very critical one. So the next one is the malicious plugin. So you can mention is like an abnormal plugin as well. So it doesn't have to be a malicious plugin. But what exactly is a malicious plugin? Now you might be using thousands of WordPress plugin if your website is running on WordPress. So most of the like easy kind of, it's a very easy to go and easy to use website, right? So not only about that, if you are using some kind of like PHP, .NET framework and stuff like that, you might be using thousands of plugins, right? Now the most important part is that those plugins will also have backdoors. Okay, so similar kind of exploitable feature, and someone can really make a use of those kind of plugins to push their malicious code into your website. So that what happens, you might be downloading a plugin from a third-party vendor, not from the original source code page, right? And you might be thinking, okay, so it could be a legitimate one, but becoming from a developer perspective, it doesn't always fit into that model, to validate that particular plugins, the validation of signature, validation of whether it's a actual proper thing or not, and all those stuff, right? So you might have ended you might be ending the situation in some kind of scenario that you are dumping that particular plugin from a third-party vendor, and that's not an actual plugin, that's a malicious plugin. Okay, and you install that and you got hacked, right? So that's again a very, very scary features guide. Okay, so the what's next, this is the next, but anywhere not the least. Okay, so drive-by download. What do I mean by drive-by download? So it's again related to somehow like fraudulent website or phishing kind of email. Now you might be having an administrator access on the website and you downloaded something on your machine, and that has a malware into it. Or not only that, might be you are traversing on a website through Google, or you are surfing internet, and from that internet page and from that website you have clicked somewhere. Might be an adware, might be something like token hijacking session or something similar, or a web banner and stuff like that. So you have clicked that, and that is an entry point to download multiple or like a different kind of malware to your machine. Now once the malware is been injected into your machine, it can do several things. Now becoming an administrator opens the loophole to get to that particular server. The malware will be sitting on your website totally silent. Okay, and whenever you do some stuff, it will trigger off. Okay, and it will try to steal your tokens, get to your website and do all those stuffs, right? So this is the total overall thing, guys. So basically we can say that how a website get infected. Now let's see whenever you are something like, whenever you identified that in terms of like how you identified like, okay, so I might be infected, but how to identify it, right? So there are several ways. Now look at them right now. So when I say a website is got infected, so there would be obvious some kind of reasons or some kind of actual process or something that should give you the hint there is something wrong, right? So your website might be defaced. So what do I mean by that? Now while you are accessing your main page, you are not able to access that. So you can have like similar this kind of thing popped up while you access your website. Simple. The attacker can simply modify the source code of your index page, and they can dump this kind of similar thing, so that you can understand that okay, there's be something wrong and my website got hacked, so it's simply got defaced. So this is the point number 1. Okay, so moving on to the point number 2, your website visitors might be redirected to illegitimate website. Now what is basically that means? So now let's say I might be running BlackPerl.com. okay, and now if my visitors want to come and visit BlackPerl.com, if my domain or my subdomain or CNAME got compromised and someone might have hosted a malicious.com website in my CNAME and in my domain subdomain register thing, so what happens at the back end? When I try to access blackpearl.com, it would redirect me to the malicious.com website, right? So that is called a redirection to a illegal website. So when something similar happens, you have the second trigger. So the next thing is what? Next thing is your website might be sending email. So what does that even mean? So that means that your server on which your website is running, that could be sending spam emails to itself or to your vendors, your communicator, or simply other people as well. So what happens basically, if you are hosting a particular website and that has a server, you might be having an SMTP service installed because you could want to communicate with your peers, with your customers, with your users through SMTP, right? Now if your website got compromised, attacker might be leveraging the SMTP service onto your machine and try to send phishing emails, spam emails on behalf of you, right? So if that happens, you know what is this, right? Next thing, you observe suspicious folders, suspicious files on or even suspicious code on your website. We will see in a second what exactly the code means, but for this time just understand that if you find something anomalies or some kind of anomaly file has been created inside your server, you might be thinking something got wrong. Now you might ask me, hey, how do I know if there is something similar is going on or someone has created a file? How do I know? There are ways to identify. So there would be some obvious reasons to go and first to identify why it has been created and whether it has been created or not. Once you have got that reason to identify why it is created, there are ways to identify us. We will see that in a sec. Okay, so moving on, and the last thing is that probably your website is loading speed is dropped drastically. So that means someone might be trying DOS attack against your website, DDoS attack, and they can even kill your website from reaching from the actual customers, right? So that can probably happen when there is a malware active on your website and that is killing up more of the process of your server, so that your server is not able to serve the pages to the actual user who wants to try to access it, right? So that can also happen. Okay, so what next? We will identify when similar thing happens and something is bad, what is the easiest way to identify that? So easiest way, you're scan your content, guys. So now how can we scan our content? So there are options you can use free website scanner. You can scan your content using VT, hosted security scan, then UpGuard and Observatory, and all those options are available for you guys. So you don't need to run here and there, and there are also free malware sample solutions available. We will talk about that in a sec. So you can run those sample website scanner to identify if something is bad on your website or not. Next thing is very, very important and very easy trick, Google safe browsing option. Okay, now one thing is for sure, Google keeps on scanning your content to make that particular page index for your users, right? Now while if Google sees something wrong, that will stop to access your website, or that will flash some kind of message that hey, your website is not safe, return from that website. You might have seen these kind of messages from Google, right? If something similar happening to your website also, so that is the time you need to buckle up, guys, and you need to prepare your incident response plan, right? Okay, So you have done your scanning. So moving on, now this is important, and this might be very important for your interview sessions as well. If you are interviewing for an incident responder, so you need to know how can you clean up your content, right? So it is not always feasible or possible that you can rebuild your machine from the base system, right? Because if it's a server, you have thousands of reasons not to rebuild the machine from a base image. So what do basically you need to do? So clean up your content means, so the first step would be when you see something similar happening, that means your website got hacked. First step, you have to redirect to your compromised, like your compromised website should be redirected to your official website. What does that mean? Now you might be running some subdomains, let's say BlackPerl videos.com, that is a subdomain, and my official page would be blackpearl.com. so what I will do in that particular case, if blackpearlvideos.com got compromised, I will create a redirection on my configuration page. Whenever a particular user is trying to access blackpearlvideo.com, they would go to my they would get actually redirected to my blackpearl.com page. So what that means, so that gives you a special benefit to work on the back end, but at the same time your users might not be freaked out to get that understanding that hey, your website got hacked. Okay, so the latter compromise section, and if you want to open something like if there is a GDPR or any kind of compliance issue, you can get to that later, but I'm not covering that portion. But the first step is to redirect your compromised website to your official page. Okay, so that's important. Second point is obviously important, like backup your website content. Okay, so what do I mean by backup? And there are obviously some processes by which you can do the backup. Okay, so you can simply use your FTP server and you can take the full backup from your phpMyAdmin manually, considering you are running your page on WordPress or something like PHP. So there are also options like you can simply download your full content page from your cPanel section from your website backup. Okay, it's a single click restoration. So you go to your cPanel from your phpMyAdmin, you go to cPanel and you can just restore from your old backup, old known good backup. So that's an easiest option for you to clean up your content. Okay, third option is the full download your full account home directory, again everything from cPanel. Okay, so the second option is that you just running a full blown one single click restoration from your cPanel. But the third option, you first want to download your application data, what you are having or you are running just before the compromise happened from cPanel. Okay, so if you can use this backup option, so you can get your website back in a minute or in a second, right? So that's very important. Now you have to reset your old credentials before you want to make your page go live again. Okay, so whatever users, whatever admins you're present who actually access your backend server, you have to reset all of their credentials. Okay, so that's a very important step even before you go online. Okay, so the next step is that you have to remove all of your unused plugins, extensions, and a similar kind of thing from your website. Now, as I told you, right, it's an entry point for any of the attacker to go and exploit your page. Right now, if you see something anomalous or even like there are some plugins, so always verify what are the plugins you are using. Always ensure that you are downloading those plugins from an authorized website, not from any third-party vendor. And if you don't need any plugin, just don't leave it like that. Okay, kill it. Okay, so remove it from your website, because that leaves a backdoor who might know that sometime down in the future that might get exploited, right? So these are your easy steps for doing the cleanup. And last step, review your environment configuration file, right? Because that's very much important. Most of the cases we will see that the compromise is happening from modifying some of your configuration files and stuff like that. So if you are in that position that your website got hacked and you are in a phase to make it live after doing all of this cleanup step, you have to review your environment configuration file. Just go to the configuration section where you have created your configurations. If you see something anomalous, just remove it. Okay, now becoming an administrator, and if you are an administrator, obviously you will know that what configuration you have done on your website. Okay, and it will be easy for you to segregate between an anomalous thing and a non-anomalous thing, right? So you can leverage that. Okay, so moving on, so there are now the final steps, guys. So manual sorry, my tongue just got twisted. So manual malware removal. Okay, so that's an important step. So now once you can do the cleanup, so that's an option one. Now probably you can say that, okay, hey, I don't have my known good backup, I do not understand like what is the configuration file, and I might not be in a position to run my go live my page from a known good backup. Then what should I do? Then this step is important. So manual malware removal. Okay, so the first thing is that you need to check your recently modified files. Okay, so how you can do that? In our next slide I will show up some important commands on Linux platform that will help you to identify what are the recently modified files. Okay, and you can do a thorough check on that. Next thing is that examine the modified files and other files. Okay, now how you can do that? Through the command that I'm gonna show you. You can do a drastic, just quick lookup from the timeline on which your website got compromised. Okay, so you can target that timeline and you can check like from that timeline onwards how many file got modified and what the all modification have been done. Okay, so you have to check all of these things. Okay, and if you see something anomaly, just revert them. So that would help you to remove those tabs. Okay, third point is that investigate your database rows, right? So what do I mean by that? Now if you are running a website, I will assume that it is not a simple static website, it will be a dynamic one. So you will have a backend database loaded in your website to store your user data, user information and stuff like that. So you have to investigate your database rows just to identify if there is someone or someone has created a backdoor. So that means you just go through your rows, the entries of your database, and if you found something anomalous and that should not be there, you should remove that. Okay, so that's a place where malware can hide itself, and after a later point of time attacker can leverage that particular option and can call up or can even compromise your website in a repeated time. Okay, look for that. Next option is look for your temp location. This is a Pandora's box, guys. So temp location is always useful for malware authors, malware attackers, Active Directory members and all those things to create or dump malware on this location, because it's an easy location and most of the time this is a location where you will get your all of the cookie credential and stuff like that. Okay, so look for this location, and if you found something anomalous, you can identify and you should remove that. Next thing is that look for the user list that is present onto your machine. So what do I mean by that? It is very important if an attacker want to maintain persistence, by the way. So when you look for the persistence, if you are interested to know about Windows persistence mechanism, I have a video, I'll leave the link in the description and it is coming in the I button. You can check that now and you can come back to this section. Okay, so just look for the list of users that is active on your server. How you can do that? Again, you can go to my next slide and you can just check for the commands. Okay, and even like don't bother, in the last section we will see something interesting that would even help you to understand that. Okay, moving on to the next thing. So next portion would be to look for your scheduled task, scheduled job, cron tab, all of those things. Okay, because again that's portions and that's an area where malware authors tend to maintain their persistence. Okay, so you need to identify those cron jobs. If you found something anomalous, kill them off. Next thing is that look for shellcode and abnormal PHP file, guys. So how you can do that, again you will just see in a second, but this is very interesting. Okay, so when you are looking for something interesting or something anomalous, just look at the naming convention. Okay, so you will see something like gibberish.php. if you see something similar from the timeline when your website got compromised or got defaced, that's a shellcode. Okay, now just quickly let us verify if can you identify and can you tell me on this particular all of this PHP page, do you see something dodgy? Just pause the video for a sec and let me know in the comment section. Okay, so the quick tips for you guys: if you see something anomalous, the file name would be something not normal. Okay, so it will either look for something that would give you a hint that okay, this file looks to be malicious to me, or even this file can give you some kind of hint that it can give you a gibberish example. Okay, so if you are not sure, always it is preferable to just look for the head minus 10 or head minus n and then file option. Okay, that will give you the top listing content what is inside that file. Don't open the file using the cat command. Okay, because or even a vi commands, because that would give you, or that would even modify the timestamp of that particular file. So you just want to see the top content of the file. Okay, so you can download the file to your local machine or your analysis machine on which you are using, but always do that. Now let's go to the next one. On before even going that, comment me and let me know if you see something anomalous file name into that particular image. Okay, next thing is that I was talking about a shellcode, right? Now pause the video for a second again and tell me if you identify something malicious in this particular page. Okay, so by looking at this particular page, okay, I hope by now you have identified, but if you haven't identified, so what I'm gonna do, I am gonna quickly show you guys what exactly this malware file looks like. So you see there is a PHP file which looks to be a gibberish content. Okay, so I can tell you this particular file is a shellcode. Okay, so if you have identified the similar file, many congratulations to you, you have in the right track and you are going above and beyond. Okay, so the last thing is that always run a ClamAV scan onto your content. Okay, so ClamAV is a free antivirus solution. It presents on any kind of Ubuntu machine or Linux flavors. You can simply install that onto your machine and you can simply run it. Okay, so I have used it many times. Go to my web video where I have shown the website compromise thing and I have run the clam scan. Okay, so identify that, run the clam scan to identify if there is anything anomalous going on or not. Okay, now next one is moving on to the next thing. Just pause the video for a second and note down all of this command. Okay, so because these all of the command are going to be very useful for you to understand or to identify anything anomalous happening to your content, so that you can identify if there is anything anomalous going on to your website or not. Okay, so mostly we are done at this point with the theory section, and now it is coming to the very end of the section where, and I am excited too much to explore and to open the Power Forensics tool for you guys. So whatever steps that I have mentioned for the data collection, the Power Forensics tool is capable of doing that. Okay, so let us run that now. Okay, I am logged into my VM right now. And let me quickly show you guys what is actually the file all about. So if I do a quick ls, you see there is a powerforensic.sh tool. So it is a simple bash script, so there is nothing fancy going on. Okay, so let us open the file in a vi mode so that you can just see what is the content inside it and what is this file captures all about. Okay, so as I told you, so about the important stuff guys about any of the forensic acquisition or forensic case, you just need to have all of these logs into your machine. Okay, so you need to have your SUID, bash log, cron jobs, disk usage, if there is any live connection, live process, system system commands, uptime, all of these things. And not only about that, this script will also captures the memory dump onto for your machine, and that can even analyze the memory dump automatically using that. Okay, so there is an option like if you are not interested to run that, because this particular script will do some changes on the server on which you are collecting the data. So I will suggest that not to run the automated analysis section of using this particular code, but anyway you can use this particular code to capture your raw dump. Okay, so now I am gonna show you that particular script. So this is like a little bit of longer script. Okay, so let me clear that particular sucker off, and if I show you, there is no other file. Okay, so there is only one powerforensic.sh. okay, so what I am gonna do now, I am gonna simply run this particular file, sudo, then I am going to specify it as a hard specification about bash, and then I am going to run this particular command. Okay, so as I told you, the tool name is called Power Forensics. So if I just scroll it up, I have a beautiful banner. So let me know how the banners look to you guys. And now what it is saying, press 1 to continue. Okay, so if I hit simply press 1 and go enter, so it will now go to the sample collection phase. Okay, so by now it has collected all of the files, all of the forensic evidence that is required for your investigation. Okay, so now what is exactly needed? So I have given two scripts for CentOS and Ubuntu. I haven't tested it for CentOS, but Ubuntu it is working fine. So there might be some similar glitches for CentOS. So if you are interested to contribute to this particular project, submit a PR, or even ask me, reach out to me via email so that I can add you as a contributor to my GitHub repository for this particular project. So for this tutorial and releasing this particular tool, I am going for Ubuntu. So select now, press 1 to start the process of memory acquisition. Okay, so if I start simply 1, so what it is doing, you don't need to run here and there, and if you see that the memory dump is in progress now, so the tool will, this particular script will resolve all of the issues for you, and it will try to capture the memory dump, and it will be done in a sec, right? So depending on how big your architecture, how big your server, it will take those times. Okay, now you see memory capture is completed. Now this message is already shown, and it is saying that press 1 to start processing the memory image and press 2 to quit. Okay, so you can test it out by pressing simply 1 to process the memory image. What it will do, it will install the volatility into the particular machine, and it will try to pass the memory image automatically. Okay, so it will create the kernel versions, that will depend all of the resolve dependencies and stuff like that. Okay, but for my tutorial, I know it is working, so I don't even need to test it out, but feel free you guys to test it out in your Ubuntu. Just press 1 after all of this phase, and the volatility will parse your data and do a small amount of triage, what is important for any kind of base analysis, and it will give you a good hint. Okay, so for now what I will do, I will just quit this particular section, and if I do a quick ls-l, you see there are some evidence file has been created. Okay, so if you go to this particular evidence file, if I do a quick ls-l, okay, so I go to quickly in evidence, and if I do a quickly ls-l, you see all of this file has been created from whatever you have just you have after running this particular script. Okay, so if you run this particular command as a full, like if you want to process the memory image and stuff like that, this particular script will create a zip file automatically out of your data, and so you don't need to go anywhere. You just need to take that particular zip file from your machine, and you can go up there. Okay, and you can create your analysis section, and you can do the data analysis on that particular part. Okay, so that is very much interesting, guys. So yeah, so that's all about the tool. Okay, so I encourage you guys to go to my GitHub, and the link is in the description, and take the data, use this particular script, and let me know how this tool actually works. So yeah, so that's pretty much it about this episode, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. And now if you have watched this complete episode, if you are going to any interview and if someone asks you that, hey, how can you explain me, or how can you remove the steps by which you can remove a malware from your website, okay? So just explain these steps briefly to them, and you are already done with your interview sections, right? So that's all, right? And I hope you will enjoy this particular script that I have developed. Feel free to use that, feel free to take out any comments and post that in the comment area, right? And before even leaving, just give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed the section, and don't forget to subscribe this particular YouTube channel, BlackPerl, so that whenever I upload any kind of new video, that pops up to your YouTube links, or what is that, YouTube notification and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, and I hope I will be seeing you soon in the next video, where we will be exploring some new videos or new techniques or tools, or even like courses of incident response and stuff like that. So stay healthy, stay tuned.